Okay, so before we get into the actual State of the Frame for this week, hi, I'm Scott from Ramble Entertainment. This is State of the Frame, a show where we kind of analyze things that are going on within the game, within the community, and typically the show has been a breakout four-part across an entire week. And I wanted to change that. I wanted it to be small, 2 parts, an end of the week kind of thing, talk about what's going on, talk about what the devs might talk about, except I had a lot to say this week in kind of a 1 week later from Warframe kind of thing, and so I'm breaking that up into 3 parts and then a 4th part for a topic. I'll get there eventually. Thanks for watching, guys. So basically, in 4 hours, it will have been a week's time since The War Within launched. And so, since I have this fancy graphic and won't use it until the console launch of The War Within, I wanted to talk about how things feel since The War Within's launch. And I kind of touched on potentially doing this back when I did the commentary for The War Within, and so here we are. Also, today was DevStream 83, and additionally, on PC, The War Within is now replayable as of today. So we're going to touch on a few things here and there between those 2 items. So The War Within launched replayable today, and one thing I want to say about that is that choices. So I talked about this in the commentary. Basically, I had hoped, and I still hope, that at some point we will have the ability to alter our choices. This is a game where there aren't really fail states where if we fail something we can't go back and do it. It is basically a game where we always have the opportunity to gain as opposed to lose. I like games that have loss, like XCOM, for instance, or XCOM 2, XCOM Enemy Unknown, XCOM The Machine Within, or whatever the heck that expansion was called. I like those kinds of games, but that is not Warframe, and I know that I've already talked about people saying that. However, I think in the broader definition of what Warframe is, it is rarely limitation. Warframe is a very empowering game, and I think that to limit to choices that we don't know what the impacts of those choices will or could be, could potentially be a problem in my mind. And so my hope is that at some point, whether it's, say, after a conclusive point within the story, or a conclusive, or just after more story starts to come out, we might have the opportunity to change these choices within the War Within's storyline and future storylines that we have had. So basically, yeah, I brought that up because I talked about that on my commentary, and of course they said with the ability to replay the War Within, we do not have the ability to change choice. I do also want to touch on the opportunity of making a new account. Now, obviously, this isn't going to be for everyone. There will be those who might instantly think, oh my gosh, I don't want to sink the same amount of hours I've already put into my main account into another account. You don't have to, if we're being realistic. Basically, I made a PC account and in 100 hours got it to the War Within by simply knowing the mods, knowing the game, and being empowered with knowledge, and being able to rush forward because I didn't have a lot of phases of experimentation. I knew what weapons I would be able to use, and I knew what frames I might shoot for, and I did it. And that was only 100 hours. Granted, yes, I'm still missing a number of things that could also empower my account. However, it's worth, I keep saying empowering, although it's a very cool word and a very Warframe-like word, as it is a very empowering game. And with a primary account, you basically have the opportunity to transfer things to a secondary account if you have a good friend, or if you just have friends and this is a social game and those friends have the same amount of time in the game that you have. You can basically take that opportunity to jumpstart yourselves with another account. Should another account be the answer? No, I don't think so. I think since Warframe is kind of a main account or one account kind of game, in my opinion, there should be the opportunity to potentially change our choices somehow in some way in the future. We'll see. So other things about the game, I'm playing this mission in the background for a reason. I loved it. I loved what we did with Archwing. I love this kind of almost mobile defense infiltration style Archwing mission on DevStream 83. They were just talking about today. Someone brought up a question from the forums about the Orokin worm possibly having some pertinence within the game, or its mechanics being somewhere else in the game, and that Scott looked at, I believe it was Jeff, and said they had basically experimented with this, and potentially in the future that mechanic might be in there. So I'm hopeful that maybe this Archwing mechanic will find its way into the game as well. Maybe like we did here, we followed a ship to this point, and maybe we get back on our Archwings, and we follow the ship to a point in space where we defend something in space, and then we find it to another landing point. Who knows? They expanded the moon after the War Within, so I think it's also possible that the Kuva Fortress could even be expanded upon. It's worth noting that a lot of the Kuva Fortress nodes say Archwing on them, but there's really no Archwing mechanics to be had except that you can pick up some Tellurium. So I am hoping that they add more Archwing. I like that mode, but I do think it just kind of needs to find its place. And eventually on a State of the Frame, I do want to talk about Archwing and possibly what could be done with it moving forward. And just kind of the state of it within the game. So, with console launch impending, where my primary account is, I'm kind of just considering the War Within and what it means for all my goodies on PS4. And as far as choices go, coming back to choice, I don't think I'm going to change anything. I like the choices I made. They were very me. They were kind of personal when it comes to lines of thinking. And yeah, I don't see myself changing those really at all. And I liked the opportunities those choices presented, but the way things are now, I don't want to see different ones when it comes to not being able to change them. So there's that. Moving forward, anything additional from the story? I can't really think of anything additional outside of thinking about the choices when it came to the Queen at the end of the War Within, where you could kill her, Teshin could kill her, or we could let her rot. I think that was maybe one of the only non-choices. I was like, oh, I'm curious how this will impact things, and then I was like, oh wait, she kind of needed this continuity, this transference into our tenor body, because without it, she would have died. And so I think either way she was dead. And that was kind of a non-choice, but still reflects on the development of our character. So that's interesting. So let's go ahead and talk about the other things that came with the War Within.